Here we are going to be looking at organising and power dynamics. So organising is the process of building power as a group and using this power to create positive change in people's lives. Organising has everything to do with power and shifting relationships of power. Power is the ability to control our circumstances and make things happen outside of ourselves. People can exercise power by making decisions for themselves or influencing others outside of their circles or within their circles. Not everyone has equal access to positions of power where decisions are made. Throughout history, entire groups of people have been left out or marginalised from those circles and spaces where entire groups have meaningful decisions. Over time, these decisions are reinforced by the systems built up around them, making them part of our reality long after the individual decision makers have departed. Activists can challenge the power imbalances in our society through organising. As an individual, it's difficult to accumulate the amount of influence needed to change the systems of power that govern people's lives. As a group, however, we can multiply our influence by influencing others to shift power relationships and create change. Sometimes we think that if our cause is right, we will be able to win easily without building power. We might think that if decision makers just understood the problem, they'd act. Unfortunately, in most cases, even if we are right, those in power know about the issues, they still don't act. We have a job as activists, first to take care of ourselves and then to take care of others. But how do we take care of others if we're unsure how to create the change they need? We need to know how to organise. Once you have a solid plan of action, the less factors of risk and failure are there. Power is different to everyone and we all have different varieties of power. The best way to figure out what you want to change and how to highlight the issues to influence is by using a root cause analysis. If you've ever spent time pulling weeds out your garden, you know you have to pull out the entire weed from the root or else it's bound to come back. Before you start campaigning, it's really important for you to get to grips as to what's causing the problem. You need to explore all of the causes and the effects of the problem to figure out how best to solve it. The cause is what makes it happen and the effects are what are seen afterwards. So for example, the cause of climate change is pollution and the effects of climate change are extreme weather. That being said, it's so important you spend time to analyse your problem properly by making sure you know your issue inside and out. When it comes to campaigning and building support, you'll know your stuff. Friends, family and decision makers will be more likely to listen to you. Think of a tree and how it's made up of leaves, a trunk and roots. Visualise this as your problem. Each segment of the tree is a part of the issue. The leaves are the problems that you see facing your community. So these are visible and tangible issues within your community. Going back to the example of climate change, maybe a physical issue around climate change is plastic pollution. You'll be able to see this and it'll be visible and tangible to your community with lots of plastic bottles on the floor and in ponds. Then you need to look at the trunk. What structures, practices, or policies institutionalise the problem? So think of things that uphold and maintain the issue. Thinking of the issue on plastic pollution, maybe a structure, practice or policy, maybe that it's not yet illegal for companies to sell products entirely wrapped in plastic. Now we have to look at the roots. What are the underlying historical, social or economic roots that cause this problem? At the end of the day, why do these structures or policies exist? With plastic pollution, an economic and social reason is that when plastic became mass produced in around the 1980s, it was cheap to produce, so that is the economic reason. And in a society sense, society was moving towards fast-paced, increased consumerism, and it was practical and effective to use plastic. But this is why every element is important and not just the parts that are obvious to you. This helps you identify the problems and hurdles and issues surrounding your campaign topic. Once you know the issues, you can better understand how to tackle them and narrow down your demands. As change makers, we have an obligation to map out a strategy of short and medium-term objectives that function as small steps towards a very ambitious vision of the future. We won't lie, developing a campaign objective might seem like a simple task on the surface. However, you can run a lot of risk depending on poorly formulated objectives that are impossible to reach. So this kind of error can cause a campaign to break down before it's even begun. The SMART tool is a way to short and medium-term plan objectives that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. These increase the likelihood of a campaign's success. So it is a tool that helps people involved in a campaign or action maintain their focus and align their expectations. Formulating SMART objectives begins by deciding on a problem, desired changes, and a vision for the future. This then sets the stage for additional evaluative tools like analysing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is the SWOT analysis, then moving on to mapping out the players who support or hinder your plans to kick butt. This is the power mapping. Let's just run through a quick recap. So first, you're going to organise, you're going to do your root cause analysis, which is the tree, SMART objective, SWOT analysis, and power mapping. Here they are all explained. Simple and well defined, communicating exactly what you wish to happen and avoiding confusion or misinterpretations. To do this, use strong verbs like expose, develop, build, plan, execute, perform. The questions you can ask to help are: what exactly are you hoping to achieve? Why is this important? What are the benefits to reaching this goal? And how evident is the result? Then you'll move on to M, measurable. When an objective is measurable, we can monitor our actions as we progress. Some of the questions that can help with this are: how will we know when the change has happened? What are indicators of success? When benefits are created, what targets are hit? What values are increased or decreased? Think of the places, people, objects, what are protected? What territories or rights are guaranteed? And how can these measures be obtained? Then we'll go to A. In social change efforts, objectives can be bold and challenging, but they should never be impossible to achieve. Ask yourself, has anyone ever done this successfully? And is this possible in the deadline we have set? Then you'll move on to R, realistic. This can often be mistaken with achievable, but the basic difference is that in many cases, while objectives can be achieved, it is not particularly realistic for the people involved due to some sort of conflict. So is your group willing to fight for this objective? Is this objective aligned with the group's mission and vision? And are there any ethical principles jeopardised by this objective? Then finally, you'll move on to T, which is time-bound. A time limit means setting a deadline to reach an objective. Try asking these questions. Is there a window of opportunity which we need to act? So maybe think before the next election, board meeting, etc. And when will this objective be reached? Now we need to move on to what is a strategy. So a strategy can be defined as the method of building power to influence a decision maker to give you what you want. A strategy is an essential part to organising because it helps you understand how each step you take will move you closer to winning your demands. A strategy can be defined as the method of building enough power to influence a decision maker to give you what you want. A strategy is different to a plan because it involves power and relationships. So for example, if your group's putting on a social event, you won't need a strategy. You just need to plan to execute the event. However, if you want your school to change and its non-discrimination policy, you need to be inclusive of sexual orientation, gender identity, then you'll need a strategy because you'll need collective power to influence a decision maker. Here you'll see a strategy chart. Each column addresses one aspect of organising and allows you to think concretely about what you need. It's split up into demands, targets, current resources, potential supporters, and tactics. Take a good look at this strategy chart, screenshot it, take pictures, make notes, develop it as much as you can and apply it to something that you know in your day-to-day life or a campaign that you'd like to start.